Greetings from my home in Gilbert, Arizona, in the United States of America. I wish I could be with you today, but family circumstances prevented it. It's an honor to present to you on the important issue of pornography as a public health crisis. I commend the government of Poland and all who are working to combat this scourge in Poland, and I'm excited to present to you on behalf of Family Watch International, a non-governmental organization in consultative status in the United Nations. We work across the world to protect marriage, family, life, religious freedom, and the rights of parents. What if I told you that a root cause, if not the main cause, of violence against women and children has been discovered, and that this same cause is a root cause of marriage and family breakdown? It fuels prostitution and trafficking of human persons. What if I told you that we now have clear evidence that this plague is also a root cause of rape, sexual assault, early child sex, child-on-child sexual abuse, and more? What if I told you that this root cause, this driver of so much havoc and damage to children, families, and society, is identifiable and largely preventable, but that most governments have refused to acknowledge it even exists? I have witnessed as the United Nations for decades has been spinning its wheels, coming up with useless resolution after resolution, report after report, treaty after treaty, all seeking to protect women and children, all the while completely ignoring this clear root cause of exploitation. Welcome to the worldwide porn pandemic, a major global public health crisis, and a main cause of family violence, family breakdown, sexual crimes, and the worldwide degradation of women. A few years ago, I was astounded when I received a phone call from a friend. She requested that our family shelter her and her 5 children. Her husband's pornography addiction had recently escalated. He was sexually arousing himself using a picture he had drawn of his wife with her head cut off. Needless to say, she feared for her life, and to protect herself and her children, she eventually fled to another country. Her husband was a respected man in her community. Another friend learned of her husband's porn addiction after he left her and their child for another woman. His father had told him porn would enhance their marriage. Instead, it drove him to infidelity. Yet another friend was devastated when her husband of 30 years tearfully confessed to her that his porn addiction had escalated to the point that he was compulsively using prostitutes, and therefore she needed to be tested for STDs, including HIV. Having worked at the United Nations since the year 2000, and having witnessed how for decades the UN has ignored the root cause of many of the societal ills they are purporting to solve, I felt compelled to create a documentary called The Porn Pandemic. For this film, I interviewed many top experts on pornography, sexual addiction, and brain development, as well as many victims of pornography. Their testimonies all show how pornography destroys lives, dreams, marriages, and families. One boy I interviewed first saw pornography at the age of 13, and he was almost immediately addicted. This soon escalated to the point that he tried out the things he saw on his younger sister. When he got caught, he was thrown in jail for sexually abusing her. In the documentary, he questions why there are laws requiring people to lock up guns to keep them away from children, but pornography, which can be just as deadly, is freely available for children to access. Another victim I interviewed was a woman who at the age of 7 had been drugged repeatedly by her friend's father during sleepovers. She was filmed as multiple men assaulted her, and this trauma has followed her for life. What is seen in pornography is real. The people on the screen are actually experiencing what you see, and the brain cannot unexperience what it has experienced and cannot unsee what it has seen. It's recorded there permanently. Many claim viewing pornography is a personal choice that the government has no business regulating. They claim porn as a protected form of free speech and expression, an art form, and that watching porn is a harmless, healthy, normal, pleasurable activity that carries no negative consequences to anyone. Millions of porn victims know differently. And although it's more common for boys and men to develop pornography addictions, it's becoming increasingly more common for girls to become addicted. Last week, after giving a presentation in Kenya, a Kenyan woman approached me offering to be interviewed to tell her story. She reported that her addiction began with reading explicit romance novels, which led to soft porn, which led to harder and harder porn. Another woman I interviewed in the US with a similar story also reported that her addiction started with steamy romance novels. She admitted her addiction escalated to viewing child porn. She said she was appalled when she found herself actually becoming sexually attracted to children. Fortunately, she was able to get help before she became a perpetrator herself. Ironically, many people viewing porn are doing so against their own personal convictions and religious beliefs. No one ever chooses to become addicted to pornography, but for some, even a single accidental exposure can lead to a lifelong addiction. Pornography does not discriminate according to race, culture, age, gender, political affiliation, religion, or financial or social status. It can impact anyone with access of any age at any time in any country of any race or background. Another documentary we are producing features a residential program in the US for men with extremely severe porn addictions. Many have lost their jobs, their wives, their children, and everything they hold dear because they cannot stop viewing pornography. And yet, some people claim pornography addiction is a myth. Since Family Watch International takes its positions based on social science data and medical facts, let me give you just a few facts regarding porn. It's a global epidemic. Porn is estimated to be a $97 billion global industry, and according to the Huffington Post, each month, porn sites receive more traffic than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. The impact on the brain. Pornography viewing has been found to hijack the brain's reward system, similar to the way that cocaine does. A 2014 study found that increased pornography viewing is linked to decreased brain matter in the areas of the brain responsible for motivation and decision making. Porn, violence, and sexual assault. A study of the best-selling pornographic videos found that 88% contained physical aggression. This included spanking, gagging, and slapping. And about 48% of scenes contained verbal aggression, including name-calling. Pornography is associated with increased negative attitudes towards women and decreased empathy for victims of sexual violence. Men who are exposed to violent porn were 6 times more likely to report rape behavior. Women who reported that their partner was a porn user were almost twice as likely to be battered by their partner. What about porn and promiscuity? Higher frequency of viewing pornographic videos was associated with higher rates of having anal sex, group sex, and hookups. Porn and prostitution. Frequency of pornography use has been found to correlate with frequency of purchasing sex. What about porn and marriage? Pornography use is increasingly playing a role in separation and divorce. Frequent exposure to pornography is associated with the belief that marriage is sexually confining. Internet users who had engaged in an extramarital affair were 3 times more likely to have used internet porn. Then a Cambridge University study found that men who reported having excessive porn use had significantly more difficulty with sexual arousal and experienced more erectile difficulties as well. What about porn and child sexual abuse? A study of child sexual abuse offenders found that 92% possessed images of minors that emphasized their sexuality or showed them involved in sex acts. What about the impact of porn on our youth? Youth with greater pornography exposure have been found to be more likely to engage in risky sexual behavior, have oral sex, anal sex, and sex with multiple partners, view women as sex objects, have attitudes that support violence against women, report decreased empathy for rape victims. For all the reasons I just stated, I plead with you to do everything within your power to stop the dissemination of pornography in Poland. Let Poland be the shining example for all of Europe and the rest of the world to stand up against the porn industry and say no. Let Poland protect your children and families from porn, and then bring your example to the United Nations, where together we can launch an international initiative uniting countries across the world to combat porn. I will conclude with just a few lines of a proposed international resolution against pornography that we hope Poland will sign. Whereas pornography represents the photographic or video depiction of sexual exploitation of human beings. Whereas the production of hardcore pornography entails the exploitation and degradation of women and girls, subjecting them to verbal and physical abuse. Whereas both adult and child pornography is used by sexual predators to groom, entice, desensitize, and instruct their child victims. Whereas pornography presents a distorted, debased, and often violent image of human sexuality devoid of love, responsibility, and commitment. Whereas pornography, addiction, prevents, damages, and destroys marriages and is a key contributor to family breakdown. Be it therefore resolved that we, the following nations, hereby commit to pass and strictly enforce laws and policies prohibiting the production and distribution of child pornography, and to strictly regulate the distribution of adult pornography to the fullest extent allowed by law, and to prohibit internet services from providing children any access whatsoever to pornography. I hope, as you continue throughout this conference, to listen to the information about the harms of pornography and the ideas that are presented about how to regulate it and stamp it out of your country. I hope that you will listen. And those of you who have a position in government where you can create these policies, please do whatever you can to protect the children of Poland from this terrible scourge. Thank you.